The Bermuda Triangle. You've heard the name, right? It just screams mystery. Vanished ships, lost planes, a puzzle that has hooked us for generations. But what if the real story, the truth behind the legend, is actually even more incredible?
So first things first, where exactly are we talking about? Well, the Bermuda Triangle is this kind of loosely defined patch of the North Atlantic. You're not going to find it on any official map, but its corners are generally considered to be Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and Miami. And get this isn't some far-flung, empty corner of the world. It is one of the most heavily traveled shipping and flight paths on the planet.
Chilling, right? This is the kind of stuff that legends are made of. That's the actual last message from the leader of 5 U.S. Navy bombers that vanished back in 1945. It's the perfect recipe for a mystery, confusion, terror, and then silence.
Now, that famous incident from 1945, that's a huge piece of the puzzle for sure. But the reputation of this area, often called the Devil's Triangle, wasn't built overnight. Oh no, it was forged over centuries of really strange reports and some deeply unsettling disappearances.
I mean, this goes all the way back to Christopher Columbus. He wrote in his logs about his compass going haywire and seeing a strange fireball crash into the sea. Then you fast forward through the centuries, and you get these huge, dramatic events like the USS Cyclops and, of course, Flight 19. But the name we all know, the Bermuda Triangle, that wasn't even a thing until 1964, when a writer named Vincent Gaddis connected all the dots and created the legend we know today. So let's dive into those cornerstone cases, okay? The specific vanishings that became the stuff of nightmares and late-night TV specials.
And when you just look at the raw numbers, the scale of it all seems huge. I mean, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of lives lost across dozens of reported incidents over the last couple of centuries. On the surface, that volume of loss, well, it gives the whole legend some pretty serious, chilling weight. And these are the big ones. The USS Cyclops, one of the largest single losses of life in U.S. Navy history outside of combat, just gone. Flight 19, a whole squadron of military planes, vanished. And then the search plane they sent out to find them also vanished. And then there's the SS Marine Sulphur Queen, a gigantic tanker that just disappeared. No calls for help, no wreckage, just nothing.
With stories this compelling, you have to start asking questions, right? Is there really something supernatural going on out there? Or is there a more logical explanation hiding just beneath the surface?
This is where we start to pull back the curtain on the whole thing. Because when researchers really started digging into the official reports, they found something fascinating. Turns out, a lot of the most famous stories were embellished. Key details were left out, and some of the incidents didn't even happen inside the triangle at all.
Okay, let's look at the most famous case of all, Flight 19. The myth tells us it was a beautiful, calm day, and something totally bizarre happened. But the reality, from the official Navy records, it paints a very different picture. There was stormy weather moving in, the flight leader had a history of getting lost, his compass was broken, and he stubbornly refused help from people on the ground. He basically led his squadron out into the open ocean until they all ran out of fuel. It's an absolute tragedy, no question, but it's a tragedy of human error, not paranormal forces.
You know what they say? Follow the money. And this is a huge piece of evidence. Insurance companies are literally in the business of calculating risk. If the Bermuda Triangle were truly a vortex of doom, they would charge insane premiums to travel through it. But they don't. To the people whose job it is to put a price tag on danger, it's just another part of the ocean.
And the statistics totally back that up. When you actually crunch the numbers, the number of ships and planes that go missing in the Bermuda Triangle is not statistically higher than in any other heavily trafficked, storm-prone area of the ocean. The only real difference is this one has a much, much better publicist.
So, if it's not aliens, or a time warp, or a sea monster, what could explain the real incidents that did happen? Well, the answer is way more interesting. It lies in a powerful and kind of fascinating combination of real, natural phenomena.
See, it's not just one thing. The Bermuda Triangle is a region where several really potent natural forces all converge. You can think of it like a giant cauldron where the weather, the water, the geology, and even the Earth's own magnetic field can team up to create uniquely dangerous conditions.
First, and this one's pretty obvious, you've got the weather. The area is known as Hurricane Alley, and for good reason. But it's not just the big name storms. The warm waters of the Gulf Stream can generate sudden, incredibly violent thunderstorms that just erupt with almost no warning, totally capable of flipping a ship or ripping a plane right out of the sky.
Next, there's the water itself.
The Gulf Stream is basically a massive, super-fast river flowing inside the Atlantic, and it is incredibly powerful. Any debris from a shipwreck could be swept away and scattered over hundreds of miles in just a matter of hours, making it almost impossible to find any wreckage.
Okay, now let's talk about what's happening below the surface, because this is where it gets really wild. The seafloor in this region has these huge, frozen deposits of methane gas. And as this petroleum engineer explains, if that gas suddenly gets released, the results can be absolutely catastrophic.
And this image is a perfect illustration of what that theory looks like in action. A massive eruption of methane gas could create this giant area of frothy, fizzy water that's much less dense than normal seawater. Any ship sailing into that patch would lose all buoyancy almost instantly and would just sink like a rock. No time for a distress call, and leaving almost no trace behind.
And finally, let's talk about the invisible forces at play here. The Bermuda Triangle sits right on the edge of something called the South Atlantic Anomaly. It's a known weak spot in the Earth's magnetic field where intense radiation from space dips way down, much closer to the planet's surface than anywhere else.
So this anomaly is so powerful it can actually interfere with the Hubble Space Telescope when it passes through. So you can imagine what it could do to a ship or a plane. This intense radiation could absolutely explain those historical reports of spinning compasses, and it could wreak havoc on sensitive modern electronics, leading to total navigational chaos.
So, after all that, after looking at the legends and the real science, what's the final verdict?
Well, the Bermuda Triangle is definitely a place where bad things can and do happen. But it's not because of anything supernatural. It's because you have this unique combination. A ton of traffic flying and sailing through an area with some of the most extreme weather, the most powerful ocean currents, and some really unique geology on the planet. It's a perfect storm for disaster. No mysterious ingredients needed.
In the end, the legend of the Bermuda Triangle is so powerful, not because of the evidence, but because we are absolutely captivated by a good story. It just reminds us that we're drawn to the unknown, and that sometimes the most powerful mysteries aren't the ones out in the middle of the ocean, but the ones we create ourselves from a mix of fear, wonder, and a few missing pieces of a puzzle.